Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. In the quest of understanding the socio-political situation that we are in the quest of understanding it from various angles, I have been talking to politicians, I have been talking to religious scholars. I wanted today to talk to a fabulously creative person who I think, to my mind, has understood the socio-political fabric of India beautifully. मोहन जोशी हाजिर हो, एल्बर्ट पिंटो को गुस्सा क्यों आता है, अरविंद देसाई की अजीब दास्तां, सलीम लंगड़े पे मत रो. These are stories that this man has made, which were picked up from the society, and it actually reflected the society beautifully. I am talking about Mr. Saeed Mirza. Saeed Mirza is not just a brilliant filmmaker, he is a fabulous author. In a way, I'm a huge fan of his as far as his understanding and his manifestation of socio-political situation is concerned. He does it beautifully. Today, I had the privilege of speaking to him, and I'm going to share that conversation with you. Mr. Mirza, it's an honor to have you on my show. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Mr. Mirza, I'll get it directly into the question. Sir, how did you feel when you were handing the keys of FTII to Gajendra Chauhan? What was your feeling at that point in time?
It actually happened after I had resigned. My term was over in 2013, and I resigned then by resignation letter to the authorities and said that my term is over, and therefore I resigned. And I left. And then I hear much later that the position has been filled by a man called Gajendra Chauhan. And I was a bit surprised. But I said, fine, that's a choice that this regime has made. It seems strange to me. And that's all I can say. I felt a bit strange. I hadn't heard of this gentleman. I didn't know what is his background. And here he was appointed the chairman of the most prestigious film institute, not just in the country, but one of the best in the world. It surprised me. And then, of course, there was the outrage, and there were people protesting and saying, what is happening? And not that I participated, because the people might have felt that, look, this guy is an axe to grind. So I didn't really participate in that outrage, but I felt very strange. A person with these credentials is allowed to become the chairman of the governing council.
Sir, you were only sad because he didn't have the credentials, or you were also worried that there was a certain ideology that was actually being imposed on the institute?
Obviously, because every regime that comes to power has a certain kind of ideology, and therefore the certain appointments are made with that in mind. But having said that, most importantly, the FTII had been free of that. It was allowed to function by earlier governments, and by and large, most of the people who became chairman had some kind of credential to make them, to get that position. There had to be some kind of a background in films, in writing, in literature, or poetry, or music, or something, and there would be. Here, this ideology was a bit different. And then the question that was posed, of course, was, what is this ideology that's creeping in over here? Because earlier, it was a lack of an ideology that allowed it to function. Because FDI, by that time, had a reputation of being free of any ideology, but allowing all kinds of worldviews to exist. Suddenly, you have a person coming in and with an ideology which is, I would say, questionable. And his perception of cinema, his perception of the world, when I saw those television debates, they revealed a lot of things to me, or perhaps of a person with a very closed mind and not an open one. And
Sir,
that disturbed me no end.
after Mr. Gajendra Chauhan, it was Mr. Anupam Kher. Did you feel that there was a difference? Were you happy when Anupam Kher took over?
Look, with Anupam Kher, he has the credentials. There is the fact that this man has spent a lot of time in theatre and in films, and he has, I am sure, aware of literature and poetry and theatre. Therefore, his credentials are valid, and therefore I might have reservations, but I will never complain. With Gajendra Chauhan, I will.
Sir, imposing an
I might have
ideology...
reservations about Anupam Kher. I might disagree with his ideology, but he has the right to be there.
Fair enough. So my question...
But that's the way I see the world. That's the way I see it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My question then, sir, is do you see ideology being imposed on cultural and creative institutions? Do you see that as a fair thing? Do you see that as right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And it's so apparent, it stares you in the face today. It stares you in the face and you get worried because I think all creative fields should be free of that. It should be free because when you have a strict tunnel vision of a worldview, that is not good for any kind of creative thinking. A tunnel vision of a world, that's not good. And it doesn't allow the idea of expansiveness of a vision. It doesn't allow that. And that, to me, is the first, it's like a guillotine to creativity. You know, it guillotines creativity, it stops, it suffocates creativity.
Why were you not objecting when Gajendra Chauhan took over? Why didn't you object? You just kept quiet. You didn't say anything. You didn't even come out.
I did object at another level. I did object at another level because when I talked about intolerance that was creeping into the country, I did put in my papers and I did stand then with the others and I returned my national awards. I won 5 national awards in my lifetime. All the 5 films that I've made won national awards. But I put award in. I said, I reject the nature of the state which does these kinds of things. On dissent, on freedom of expression, which opposes freedom, I oppose the state and I oppose the regime that passes these kinds of laws. And I stood with the rest. But as far as Gajendra Chauhan goes, it was a choice that was made by the regime in power. And it might have looked like, here is the ex-governor of the chairman of the governing council, ex-governor, chairman, and he might be appealing to the new chairman coming in. I mean, I said, no, I don't want to participate in that kind of thing, you know. It seems that, you know, I have an axe to grind.
Sir,
but I supported in a letter all those people protesting against it. I did put my name down. I did support them. But at a personal level of coming out and speaking out, I did not. But I did put my name down on all the protests that were sent. My name was always there.
Sir, while you say that creative thinking cannot happen under the background of an ideology, sir, a lot of people say that your thought, your ideology is very leftist. How did your creativity
Absolutely.
happen?
For a very simple reason. Define a leftist. I mean, the point is that the tragedy is that when one sees the idea of a leftist, one sees a textbook kind of person with a dour face and rules and regulations. I'm not, for God's sake, you know, that's not my idea of leftism. To me, leftism is poetry. To bring poetry back into people's lives, and how do you do that? And to me, fundamentally, when I say I'm, well, a leftist of some kind, to me it means poetry. It does not mean ever stifling dissent. It does not ever mean stopping anybody from thinking freely. And to me personally, the more ideas there are, the more worldviews there are, the more it's a. Can I make a quote in Urdu to you?
Oh yes, please.
Which will
please.
explain what I mean.
Please.
चमन में इख्तिलात रंगबू से बात बनती है. चमन में इख्तिलात रंगबू से बात बनती है. हमें तो क्या हम हैं? तुम ही तो हो तो क्या तुम हो? Chaman में, in the garden, it's a fragrance of colors and fragrances. If it is only I, what am I? If it's only you, what are you? A garden can only be a garden when it has all colors, all fragrances, all kinds of views, and all kinds of coming together. What is an orchestra? It's an orchestra. It's a symphony.
Sir,
and all comes together.
In your mind, how would you define a rightist then?
A rightist, and these are terms that I don't particularly like, but I'll tell you what I feel, what a rightist really is the antithesis of this garden. The antithesis of this garden. That's a rightist. And fundamentally, when you have an exclusive vision of the world, you're not compassionate. When you are exclusive, you can never be compassionate. That's the tragedy of it.
So you're technically saying that right is bad and left is good, isn't it?
No, not right is bad. You've got to be inclusive. You cannot be exclusive. Now, what's good
Which
is
right
bad
is not. Right, according to you, is not
does.
inclusive.
Anybody who does not encompass a world, to me is a less of a human, is less accomplished than a person who encompasses the world and lives with that. To me, that's what poetry is really all about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What is poetry all about?
Sir, let's go further. Let's go to the next part of my question. Sir,
okay,
all your movies were based on what the current society was. I mean, Arvind Desai ki Ajib Dasta was based on that particular day, that particular society. Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai? In fact, a lot of our viewers won't know that you actually predicted, you were the first to predict that Mumbai mills may close down with Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai. So it was about mill workers and the story was about mill workers. Then Mohan Joshi Hazir Ho. It was about the real estate, the growth of a city, which was actually killing people.
And the court system, the system that ignored.
Correct.
The legal system.
Correct. So every movie of yours had a message and it was basically directly lifted from what was happening in the society, what was happening around us. Sir, tell me, if you were to make a movie today, what would that movie be, sir? And what would be that topic?
I mean, this is conjecture. Because what I want to say is now in my books.
Yes.
Filmmaking requires a lot of energy and a lot of physicality to it now. But yeah, what I'm saying in my books is fundamentally a world gone awry. A world gone awry and a world that has become bigoted, closed, angry, full of hate, and in that you see people getting sucked in to this world, and it worries me. And it all stems from, I think, from a political and economic system that we have today in the world that cannot guarantee most citizens in the world, a job, an education, a home, dignity. It cannot guarantee any longer. And in that, you have people getting suffocated, and then the release is anger and frustration. And you see that happening. It worries me. And also, in that comes hate. Because when you need to point out कि भैया ये गलती किसकी है, you need the other. You need to point our finger to somebody, say इसकी वजह से ये, and that leads very simply, it leads to fascism. It leads to the other and then hate, and you turn fascist. Slowly, you don't realize it, but you have become. And to me, that's terrifying. That's why I said the garden, the analogy of the garden is so critical.
Sir, you know what? One gets, the titles that you give for your films are always brilliant. I mean, Mohan Joshi Hazir Ho. Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai? I mean, look at the title. When you had the Sholays and the Baruds and the, Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai? Sir, what title would you give a film today?
I'll tell you. Ajay Kumar Bisht में इतनी नफरत क्यों है?
Hate has been there throughout. Hate was there even in Albert Pinto. So it was not that Albert Pinto was not angry. The Albert Pinto was also angry. How is the hate different to the Albert Pinto era to today?
There's a difference between anger and hate. There's a difference. Albert Pinto को गुस्सा क्यों आता है? Gussa is hate, is anger.
Correct.
There's
Anger.
a difference. You get angry by your circumstances. You get angry by the fact that things have gone awry in your world, and you're trying to figure a world out. And then you realize that yeah, it's a system that is creating these iniquities in life. And you say, let's figure the system out. So your anger is generated against a system which is either political, sociological, and economic. All three together. You don't single it out to other sections of people.
Anger brings about change. What does hate bring about?
Adolf Hitler.
I beg your pardon?
Simple. Adolf Hitler.
Okay.
There's a difference. The problem is, see, and also I must make a thing. It also with what was going on, there was also hate against the bourgeoisie in leftist revolutions. People were slaughtered also. That is not what I'm talking about. That's hate. Anybody who's has a certain way is therefore enemy of the people. That's not. I don't think that's the way to go about it. That also borders on fascism. That also borders on fascism. So I think anger is justifiable if your focus is not about individuals, but rather than a system around which people exist. Like for instance, if I ask a question, I wanted at one point of time to make a film. Why did so many of the children of left union leaders joined the Shiv Sena, which was the antithesis of the left movement, left trade union movement? Was I angry? You can't get angry. You got to understand. You have to understand what happened, what went wrong. With the left unions, what did they do? And if you don't understand that history, you can easily start condemning. You need to understand. You need to understand. When you stop understanding, you end up with hate. When you end up with hate, you turn fascist.
Has hate crept into Indian film industry?
There's an attempt, I think, looks like it. It's undercurrent, it's understated, but it's nuanced. It is below the surface, but yes, I see game being played by television anchors. I see game being played by actors and some actors themselves. And I see.
Sir, I will get back to you with the media question, but today I want to focus on Indian film industry. Maybe I want to focus on Hindi film industry per se. I want to ask
Okay.
you this very direct question. Has hate crept into Hindi film industry? If so, how has it crept in?
I've been an outsider for quite some time of this industry because, when I moved on to writing. But I think, uh, you can see it. It's a strange way that you take the death of a young actor called Sushant Singh Rajput. You take the idea of it, and what role did the media play with it? It was a young. It's a very tragic story. A young, upcoming star actor who was doing well, and he ends up dying. And
I
now,
want to go back to my original question. My original question is, sir, there are actors who claim or whose current baseline is that they are nationalist actors, which never existed before. Because one didn't have to kind of emphasize, or one didn't have to have a baseline saying that, I am a nationalist or not. Now you have actors who claim to be nationalist actors. So, technically speaking, now there is a nationalist actor and not so nationalist actors. Okay, this never existed. I am talking about that.
Right.
I want to get back into that particular question. This means that is there a certain amount of polarization that is happening in the Indian film industry?
it can be answered. It
Please.
can be answered because it doesn't come from the actor. It's the regime in power they claim to be a nationalist regime. They are the patriots and everybody else is not. They have claimed this. कि हम ही हम हैं, तुम क्या हो? You question them and you're called a Deshdrohi.
So,
Nothing to
sir,
do with
are you therefore saying that all the blame is to the regime and the actors who claim to be nationalist and the actors who actually now kind of are making a living out of it too, some of them, I've got nothing to say. I mean, there's no blame for there's no blame on them. They're innocent.
The point is, are you with us or are you against us? That's the theme. The theme of the powers that be is, are you with us or against us? And if you are with us, show it. Express it. A lot of guys fall into line. A lot of people fall into line and they express it because they actually believe that the other side are anti-national. Do they really believe it, most of them? I'm not so sure. But it does make great political sense and economic sense to be on the side of the regime in power. It pays great dividends.
Let's stick to Hindi film industry. A lot of people from the film industry has been saying that India is no longer safe, or they were looking at permanent residents outside. India is no longer safe for a particular community, particular people, so on and so forth. What is your opinion on that?
Hey, I have the tragedy of my name. My name is Saeed Mirza. And I can imagine the trolls coming at me and at you because of the fact of what I'm going to say. But you anticipate that. There is a targeting which is occurring, which is a fact. I always try to imagine what is it like to be a Hindu in Pakistan. I really want to know. And what are the dreams and the situation out there, or to be a Hindu in Bangladesh, or to be a Shia or something, and how to be an African American, and these things do cross your mind because state has the power to inflict a lot of pain on minorities of any kind, could be color, race, creed, language. State has the power. And a majoritarian state, which asserts its majoritarianism, it becomes that much more dangerous. These are truths around the world, also true in India. It's also true in India. Now we can duck the question. We can duck it and say, no, don't duck it. Confront it. Ask questions. Why? I often wonder, you've got this love jihad thing that's happening. I mean, is it real? A nation with such a great civilization and such an incredible history, today has come to the stage of passing laws against a Hindu-Muslim marriage. Is it a joke? Is it Kafkaesque? It's real. Did you see that young couple in front of in the police station defending their act of getting married? And the humiliation that they had to go in a police station because some law was passed about love jihad. I mean, what kind of people are these? Is it I wonder what dreams they have in the night who pass these laws. What are their dreams? Do they see Muslims as marauders, as slaughtering cows and picking up women and pillaging and raping? Is this the kind of dreams that they have? I often wonder कि भाई आपके ख्वाब क्या होते रात को जब ऐसे ख्याल आते हैं आपके दिमाग में, and you pass these laws. We are a laughing stock. The 20th century passing laws of love jihad. And I'm sure on the other side, you'll have some Muslim cleric also saying, depression, let's change the demographic imbalance. I mean, how grotesque can you get?
Sir, where do you see us going? Where do you see us in the next 10 years?
Into a pit. But I also believe people get sucked into it because it's highly emotional, because these tags are highly emotional. It's nationalist, it is the flag, it is patriotism, it's culture, all into one. I think it's sucked into it. But for how long will it go on? It can't go on forever. And then once you learn that from the history, I hope it's never repeated again. Unfortunately, mankind goes through these things and repeats mistakes, but I believe things will change. And some wisdom will prevail somewhere, some poetry will emerge. Yet, I suggest to all these fellows, all these leaders who are passing these stupid, bigoted and tunnel laws, read some poetry, mere dost. Read poets. Read Virat Goraboi, read Rabindranath Tagore, read Mukti Bodh, read Ghalib. It will enlighten you. You have to borrow. Read Namdev Dasar, read Sri Sri. Follow in लोगों को. You'll improve as a human being and be a little. Your dreams will get better and less grotesque.
Sir, tell me.
All right.
Sir, my question which I started off, and I want to dwell a little on that. Sir, how come all your films have got names like Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai? When commercialization was at its peak during that era, and yet each and every film did well in box office. How could you put that name? What prompted you to get that name?
Let me tell you, I started, like I said, I'm fundamentally a Democrat in my soul. And I wanted to make films that were democratic. So I started with the title, Arvind Desai ki Ajeeb Dastan, Albert Pinto Gussa Kyun Aata Hai, Mohan Joshi Hazir Ho. So when a person buys a ticket for the film, he knows a little about the film already, because when he's buying the ticket, he's buying a ticket for Arvind Desai ki Ajeeb Dastan. He's buying a ticket for Albert Pinto ka Gussa Kyun Aata Hai or Mohan Joshi Hazir Ho. He knows a little about the film when he enters. It's not a surprise. Now in the hall, I am going to have a dialogue with the audience. Let them decide to like or dislike it. To appreciate or say third rate, allowed. But I have tried to make it democratic. And that was the purpose.
My last question. Do you remember that shot from Albert Pinto ko gussa kyun aata hai, when Albert goes to Stella's house and to take her out on a movie, and then his would-be father-in-law has a drink with him, and they have this conversation about India and about the potholes and about the gas ko 2 mahine lagte hain, vagere. You think any director or anybody today, or including you, would you have the guts to make a film like that and put that shot in? In fact, I'm going to put that shot.
Uncle, you got a solid capacity, huh?
तू भी मेरी छोकरी को भगाने से पहले एक छोटा और पी ले यार।
अरे नहीं अंकल, इतना पी के मेरा भेजा आउट हो जाएगा। अरे अंकल, पिक्चर सब बस लास्ट ड्रिंक।
जितना पीने का है पी ले यार, बट आगे क्या पता क्या होगा। कार कौन सी ला?
ब्यूक।
फॉरेन का कार, क्या बात। 10 साल चला, 20 साल चला, नया के नया।
बिल्कुल।
इधर हमने इंडिया गाड़ी 1 साल हुआ खड्डे।
और इधर का रोड देखा है आपने?
हाँ।
खड्डा ही खड्डा। अंकल, इस कंट्री का तो गॉड ही रखवाला है।
सत्यानाश, ये कंट्री तो खड्डे में गया। 8 बरस हुआ हमको टेलीफोन के लिए अर्जी दिया, न फोन न टोन, अर्जी का जवाब ही नहीं। अप्लाई नो रिप्लाई।
अंकल, बाहर का कंट्री में तो 2 दिन में फोन मिल जाता है।
हाँ?
और इधर तो फोन तो छोड़ो, 2 बरस तक गैस नहीं मिलता। चूल्हा जलाने के लिए गैस नहीं मिलता। लोग बाग खाएंगे क्या? हवा। एलिस चला किधर है? उसको बोलो तैयार होने का। पिक्चर आज देखना है कि कल?
सत्यानाश, जॉन्डिस, फ्लू, आंख का रोग, पेट का रोग, जो रोग बोलो है ही रोग। सरकार बोलती है होशियार रहो, सुई लगाओ, और
पानी उबाल के पियो। अरे कहां से? गैस किधर है? गैस किधर है?
ब्रिटिश का टाइम, फर्स्ट क्लास टाइम। अभी तो देखो नगरी मुंबई एक झोपड़पट्टी है। मुंबई क्या, सारा इंडिया एक झोपड़पट्टी है।
Or you'll be called anti-national. Today you'll be called anti-national because the country is frayed, our nerves are frayed. There's so much patriotism floating around. Our nerves are frayed. We get angry at the smallest thing. Sujit, I've reached the stage. Speak your mind. Speak your mind, but with integrity. With integrity. You don't have a hate in your heart. With integrity. And that is critical. Speak it. Look at the books that I've written.
Yes. Speak your mind with integrity. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much for talking to us. Thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure to do this. In fact, really, thank you so much. Namaskar.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying rupees 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr Sujit Nair and from Mr Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying rupees 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.